Good morning, guys. So this is now coming up to week 2 in Dubai. Definitely feel like I'm over my initial mentee B and a bit more settled into routine now, which is actually super nice. I will say the only thing that's not really enjoying out here is my skin. I don't know if it's just like the extra bit of sun or whatever, but skin was not too happy. But usually it kind of gets like that anyways after a travel day, and when there is just a little bit more, let's say, stress, because like I said, when I initially got here, it was a little bit stressful, but definitely feel like I found my groove now. And actually what I find here, because essentially because of the time difference, it feels like I've actually got a bit more time in the day as well. Like it doesn't feel like, it almost feels like the days are a bit, well, I suppose like the days are a bit longer, maybe because we're 3 hours ahead of the majority of my clients in the UK and Ireland. So yeah, but actually the days feel really productive. Training is actually going really well. I'm now a week into my recomp phase and I'm almost a kilo down. So that is amazing and definitely a far cry from the first dieting phase I did at the beginning of the year when all of my blood work was like really off. So now that everything's in a good place, funny enough, body seems to be responsive, so I'm not going to speak too soon. I don't want to jinx it. But I'm actually really happy with how things are going. It's not been difficult either. It's literally just been a very small adjustment with food. I think I mentioned this last week, but it was only like 200 calories or so, 150 to 200 calories on both a train day and a rest day. And yeah, body weight's been coming down really nicely. I've actually seen a drop almost every single day. And don't get me wrong, a lot of that's going to be like a bit of water, etc. too, but I do feel the difference for sure, like in myself, and I'm just looking forward to feeling like, you know, I am back really moving in a proper direction again. I don't know if I hope that I don't think the camera's foggy, but if you knew like how humid it is this morning, you would be shocked. Like literally, I walked out from the hotel where obviously it's all air-conned, and I had my phone in my hand and immediately like there was condensation on my phone. It was like that, it's that humid. I think it's probably about 32, 33 degrees at the moment. So yeah, it's pretty warm, but in general, like I'm enjoying the morning walk. I feel pretty positive. I actually feel like I've had the best couple of nights sleep since I've been here. Like the past couple of sleep scores are not everything, but they've been like 93, I think, both nights, which I've needed, which I always feel like when I get my cycle, sleep just gets better like immediately, whereas like in the lead up to, it's always a little bit broken. I feel like it's just probably because I was a bit unsettled as well. So I've gone from like 70 sleep scores, which is not great for me, to like 90s, which is, you know, phenomenal. I actually feel like I'm waking up like alive now. So yeah, overall training's going really well. Recovery is actually pretty good as well. I've just trained, today will be my 3rd day training back to back, which I haven't done for a long time, would not have been able to do before. Was a bit dubious about it, but I was like, you know what, I'll try it. I'm just going to pull back my volume a little bit to compensate for the fact that I'm training more frequency. So I just pulled back a couple of sets across my lower body work, because I've done Thursday lower, yesterday upper, and then today I'll train lower again. So just putting back a couple of sets and just being aware of like my exercise selection, maybe making a couple of adjustments to exercise selection compared to what I would usually do, just trying to mitigate like the extra bit of smashedness I probably would have experienced. But so far so good. So again, like it just kind of goes to show the fact that when blood work's in a good spot, your body wants to work with you rather than against you. So, you know, I'm pretty happy all around. Now today we are actually going for sushi. I think I mentioned this before, but I am currently in this recon phase, so things are moving forward, like I said, quite nicely, but we're still including like an off-plan meal, because one thing that was quite important is like, seeing as we've just got here in March, just post-show, is I still want to have the ability to, you know, go and experience a bit more of Dubai, especially these first few weeks. So that is mainly why that is, but at the end of the day, like I'm still driving things forward like across the week quite easily. So the plan of action today is, we know that food and calories are probably going to be a little high, but we actually want them to be. So we're actually not going to try and like fit every single like calorie like into my normal plan, because the idea is today we do want a bit of a bump in calories across the week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, taking you through sort of like my day of meals and see what adjustments I make. Again, keep in mind that, oh my god, my arm is getting really tired, I'm getting like a shoulder pump, but keep in mind that this is not like me fully substituting for a meal, but it's leaving aside a few additional calories basically, which was the idea. So I'll probably make some changes to the meals that I have on plan. So that'll look like, you know, pulling back a few carbs, a few fats here and there, just to make me able to have, like, let's say for example, something a bit more substantial. Because if I go out for a meal, right, I do like to kind of come away from it feeling like I've had a meal. Like, I don't try and think about it as too deep. If it's not exact, is not exact, and that's okay, because obviously we can never really accurately track what is exactly in a meal. Even if your calories are on the menu, it's just not really feasible. So obviously if there comes a point where I do need to pull back on them, then I will. However, I don't think that there is necessarily, I should have put this on tracking, I'm an idiot, but I don't think that at the moment there is necessarily a need for that right now. So I'll take you through the day, I'll show you the sort of little adjustments and substitutes I make. I'll probably swap this out for, like, well, Nathan said to swap it out for one meal, so maybe it will just be me swapping this out for my last meal and just making a couple of adjustments throughout the day just to make things work. But if I want to give myself that extra bit of buffer room for calories, I might swap out a little bit more, but we'll see. And I'll take you along with me on that. Oh, there's a fly. Look at this as well. This is just stunning. Definitely the morning walk has leveled up. So here is meal one. What I'm thinking is I probably will swap this meal later for 2 meals. So what I'm going to do is I'm not really going to make too many changes to the meals that I have. I will make small reductions here and there, but just not a crazy amount. So what I have here is 75 grams of sourdough instead of 100. The avocado is the same, eggs still the same, spinach, I already ate the tomatoes, but it's just a 25 gram reduction off the bread. Now, if I want to do or create, I suppose, a bigger buffer for later, what I could do is I could reduce the bread down to maybe like 50 grams, or I could actually pull out like the whole egg, or I could pull out the avocado to reduce the calories in that meal a little bit more. So if it was a bigger meal, then there are still more adjustments that I could technically make to that to give me a few more calories to work with later on. Pre-workout meal, which I have here after we've just done a little work block after meal one and the steps this morning. But I have 65 grams of oats here, 100 grams of berries, 20 grams of whey isolate, and 10 grams of dark chocolate. Now, even when I'm gonna have like a meal out later, and today is legs, so it's a big session. Today I think is like the biggest, what I think is like the biggest session of all my rotations. I personally don't really like to pull away a whole lot from my pre-workout meal. I like to go in pretty well fed. So even if I'm trying to give myself a good few extra calories for later, I'll not usually pull too much from my pre. So I think off the back of my normal pre-workout, for example, typically I would actually have cream of rice for this, but at the moment, I just really have gone off cream of rice, so I'm actually swapping this in for oats, or swapping that out for oats today. It's only 10 grams less, basically. So typically it would be 75 grams, but this is 65, and I've also reduced my dark chocolate by 10 grams. So it's 10 grams instead of 20. So not a huge shift for that meal. I would not bring that, like, you know, all the way down to only having like 40 grams of oats or 40 grams of cream of rice. Like, I do still like to have like a decent amount of food for my pre, so that I feel like I'm going into my session well fed, like I've got enough food. I'm not going to be like starving hungry like one set into my session. I like to feel like it's going to sustain me throughout the whole session. So this is my pre-workout meal. Look, it's beautiful. And then we are off to train some legs. Right, so here was my lower body session for this particular day. I may have mentioned earlier in the video, I actually can't remember if I did mention, but this is probably my most challenging session of all my lower body rotations, and that is out of 3. So I have 3 different rotations that I move through. Obviously, a lot of it is just my bread and butter work, which is a lot of hip hinging, a lot of hip thrusts, and just everything and anything that's going to help me grow my glutes, basically. But I did start this session off with a glute kickback. I always like to start my sessions off with a glute isolation, just because I feel like it just allows me to engage the muscle a little bit better. And I feel like then when I go into my bigger work after that, like hip thrusts, other movements like RDLs, leg presses, I just feel like I have a better connection overall, and I've actually got a little bit of blood to the muscle, and I just feel more primed and ready to go for those bigger movements. As it relates to this particular full day of eating, and obviously me taking you through a day of seeing how I might change and adjust my meals to fit in an off plan, I know that there are many people that do like to have off-plan meals fall on a training day. I do feel like it is easier to adjust meals on a training day, often because we have more food on a training day. I certainly have slightly higher food on a training day, therefore there is more to sort of pull away from, which I can understand why it's preferable to do that. I personally do prefer to have an off-plan meal on a day that I'm training something like legs, because I feel like I am expending a good few calories as well, and I actually need to replenish some of those glycogen stores more readily, let's put it that way, after I've had like a big leg session versus off the back of like a rest day. However, if an occasion came up, it wouldn't stop me from going out for a meal if it was a rest day. It does mean that I would have to probably do a little bit more when it comes to pulling things back, and my meals on the day might have to be a little bit smaller. However, I'm also very aware that I still have, let's say for example, the next training day to pull a few extra calories back should I want to, off the back of like having an off-plan meal. So it wouldn't stop me from having an off-plan meal, whether it's a rest day or a training day. If it's my preference, yes, I do like it to be after like a big leg session. However, what I do find as well is that, let's say for example, I've had a solid extra bolus of calories the evening before a leg day, let's say on a rest day, I'll often feel like I'm going into legs with I feel like the pump is really good, especially once you've had something like sushi. It's quite high in sodium. I just feel pretty good going in after a rest day and an evening meal. So I suppose you could see the positives either way. I just don't think it's really that deep. There was once upon a time where I used to feel very like anxious about going for a meal on a rest day because I wasn't training. However, I feel like I definitely passed that now, because it's really not going to make that much of a difference. You still have the next day if you wanted to pull things back, and you either have a really good session off the back of having a meal the day before, or you have a bit more buffer room in terms of calories for having it the day off. So you can make it work either way. It's really not that deep. But at this point in the session, I was definitely starting to feel it a little bit. I mentioned a little bit later on in this video that I felt like the heat was sort of getting to me a touch this day, and I really was not feeling too great. However, we pushed through like we always do, and I didn't raise no quitter, but at the same time, I have definitely taken a mental note just to try and make sure that I'm staying a little bit better hydrated, especially if I am spending a bit more time out in the sun, because I do feel like some of these leg days, they're pretty savage considering it's like 40 degrees at the moment. So I then finished off the session with a seated ham curl, and I really like this one actually. I can actually, don't mind the static on my iPhone camera, it is definitely on its way out, but I'm actually really enjoying this machine. I can actually get it to fit me as well, and I'm only like 5'3", so I do come across some issues here and there just with not really fitting properly into machines. It is kind of annoying in a lot of places because I'm limited in sort of what I can and can't use unless I can sort of make some sort of adaptation to the machine to fit me. But this one on the smallest setting is practically everywhere. It's practically perfect. So this felt really, really nice. I do like a good seated ham curl, and this was a really good way for me to finish off the session. Obviously, hamstrings aren't really like a big priority for me. Actually, no, I lied. This is even the end of the session. This is the mid part of the session because I've still got Bulgarians to go yet. But yeah, like I think that just closing the gap with these in between like the leg press and the Bulgarians that I'm about to show you is just almost a little bit, I don't want to call it a rest, but I think considering my goal over the past while has just been to try and really recover pretty well, you know, between my sessions, between exercises. I think that sometimes doing those bigger movements back to back to back, depending on what phase you're in or your recovery, sometimes like it's almost more advantageous to actually split that up a little bit more. But this sort of took me into Bulgarians, which are always absolutely savage, and this was almost towards like the back end of my session, to be honest. I think I had Bulgarians and then I had adductor, which I didn't get on film because my phone decided to not work. So I won't lie, I wasn't necessarily super happy with the set of Bulgarians, but I thought I'd just chuck them in anyway. I just felt like they were a little bit inconsistent. Like I said, I wasn't feeling great at this point, so I feel like there are some reps that were just a little bit off, some reps that were good, some reps are a little bit off. In hindsight now, they're probably not looking as bad as what they felt, but I just felt a little bit wibbly wobbly, so sometimes that happens. Right guys, so back in the same spot and we are now back from the gym. So I just went and trained legs, and something that I have definitely noticed since I've been here is that if I push my luck a little bit with being out and about, because I want to make the most of this because I love the sunshine, I love the hot weather, but I feel like I'm just pushing my luck a little bit with it at the moment, because yesterday, for example, I went and sat by the pool for probably best part of like 45 minutes in the afternoon, which, by the way, here in the afternoon it probably gets around 40 degrees at the moment. And even though like I feel good at the time, I feel like the next day, for example, it just, especially when it comes to training, it just knocks the wind from my sails. Like I feel like today's session was really hard, not in just like a way of, it was a hard session. It was a hard session anyway, like I said earlier. It's probably one of my most challenging sessions of the rotations. However, I don't typically feel like sort of dizzy or nauseous, but I definitely felt a little bit that way, like really like the life had gone from me a little bit, just feeling really, really like unwell towards the back end of my session today. So I still completed it, I still did everything, but I just had to take a little bit longer rest times between my sets, etc. So I just need to be really mindful of that. So I think tomorrow, obviously we've trained 3 days back to back now, so tomorrow we've got rest day, which I'm really looking forward to, just because I think my body just needs it at the moment. And I don't think that I'm going to spend too much time outside other than just like, you know, my morning walk, just to allow my body to catch up, rehydrate, really get top of my sodium, like potassium, electrolytes, hydration as well, really slam the water, because it really does make all that much of a difference. Like it really, really does, because I have definitely noticed that, yeah, I can just push the limit a little bit and it is affecting my sessions, which obviously is not really what I want to happen. So things to be mindful of whenever you go to a hot country and you're training and you're out and about a lot across the day, make sure that you're just aware of like, right, can your body hack that? Because even though you might enjoy it, you might find that it does eat into your progression a little bit if it's like, you know, continuous thing. But anyway, I digress. I have my post-workout meal here. So this, I've adjusted just ever so slightly. So usually I would have 100 grams of mango. This is now 50 grams. And I would have 75 grams of rice and 100 grams of chicken. Chicken is the same, so still 100 grams of chicken, but I have pulled the rice down to around 55 grams. So it's going to be 20 grams less. Also, look at this. I love the glass Tupperwares, but I do have a few that are now like chipped, and I cut myself on them quite a lot, which is not ideal. So probably should replace that one. But this is going to be my post-workout meal. This will most likely now be my last meal before we go for sushi later. So again, just a little bit of a reduction, not crazy amount, because I am actually swapping out 2 meals for this. And what I might do is, because I don't think it's always a good idea to go into a meal like starving, hungry. And I say the same to my girls, because as much as like, yes, we do want to create a solid buffer, like if the meal's a little bit bigger, we want to be able to kind of swap out a good few calories for that meal. But I also don't think it's a good idea if you're really hungry to be going into an off-plan meal, because then the likelihood of you overeating is probably quite high. So if, let's say for example, I needed to close this gap, like if I was like, oh my God, I'm really, really hungry now, then I'd probably just put in like a little bit of protein, like some chicken or a bit of zero Greek yogurt, maybe with some berries, something along those lines, something just very protein heavy, just to tie me over or tie you over. That's always a really good idea, rather than obviously you going into a meal feeling like you could literally eat the whole menu. So that's a little tip for you as well. If you find that calories are not quite equating, let's say for example you're over by, let's say for example 300 calories or so, roughly approximately, you could technically pull from the next day, and I'd almost rather do that than not having something in between, like this meal for example and my off plan if I really was hungry. I'd rather just, right, I'll just put those calories back from tomorrow, but I'm actually going to have something small in between. So that's the way I'd work it. That's the way I work it with my girls as well, just so you get a little idea. And obviously the next thing, or I suppose the next meal that you see will be our sushi, which I'm looking forward to showing you. And I'm definitely going to make sure that I literally chug the water across the rest of this afternoon. Right guys, so we are on the road. You know what, Mark's actually doing a really, really good job of driving out here. They drive on the other side of the road, and in Dubai, the roads are absolutely fucking mental. Like seriously.
To be honest with you, it's actually nowhere near as mental as what it was last time. It's actually fine.
Oh.
This time.
Yeah, like, you know what, it's probably because we're on the outside of it now, but it's just the fact that when you look at it on maps, right, if you ever come to Dubai, you'll know exactly what I mean. If you ever look at the roads on maps, there are like literally 7 different lanes all coming off the same lane. So when you look at it on the map, you don't know which lane you're supposed to be in, because there's just like a bunch of circles and lines everywhere. But I feel like he's very much getting the gist of it now. Eventually I'm going to have to drive out here, and that's going to be terrifying. But needs must, have to learn at some point. Own somewhere called Rayu. Mark sent me over a few suggestions, and this actually worked out. It was pretty cost effective, to be honest. It was all you can eat sushi for the best part of like 20 quid, the equivalent of. So we'll go and suss it out, see what it's like. Obviously we went to Asia last time, which is definitely a bit more high end, but still pretty reasonable for unlimited sushi, and that was like £35. So we'll have a look at what this is saying. We have gotten out of the gym clothes, so Mark's wearing like this lovely stringer. Is it a stringer? It's a vest. So we're hoping that he doesn't get kicked out, so he's bought an extra shirt with him just in case, because that might very well happen. So, but we thought it was a sort of casual vibe, so we went through the whole, we don't really know what to wear, do we do this, do we do that? So yeah, I'm looking forward to food. I didn't actually end up having any extra like protein in between. The last meal that I showed you was the last thing that I had, but that's tied me over quite nicely. So we'll see how big the rolls come out as, because sometimes they use like a shit ton of rice and sometimes they don't. So I never like to go into like a meal with exactly how many rolls that I'm going to have, but I do like to be fairly flexible, like just see how I feel. Like obviously if I'm absolutely bottomless, I'm probably going to have to stop before like I'm full, because I could probably put away like 50 pieces of sushi easy. But at the same time, my appetite's not been crazy while I've been out here, so I'm just sort of going to eat up until the point where I feel like satiated, like I'm fairly full, and then I'm going to stop there. And I think that'll be it for the night then, whereas Mark will probably still be ravenous after like 60 pieces, because he's still only like 5-6 weeks post show. So yeah, that's just like bottomless pit territory. Oh, just making sure that you aren't going to crash. But yeah, I'm going to show you the meal when we get there. So we're just trying to find, well, we actually just found the place, but we're just going for a little gander. Not 100% sure if Mark's allowed to wear a vest. So Mark's literally just choosing his rolls. I've done mine. I can't remember what I got though. I think I got like the creamy salmon, Alaska, and I can't even remember what else. Maybe the chicken one? But there is quite a lot of choice, which is often not always good because we spend so long choosing. Just get it and then we'll see what it looks like. But what we're going to do is, this is what we usually do when we come for sushi. We will usually get the rolls, but we'll actually ask for like no cheese and no mayo because we just don't really feel like we need it, and it does add a good few calories anyway, so we just like to keep it just quite simple, quite plain. And not to mention as well, it also just sits a little bit better on your stomach, I think. Like, it's just easier to digest without all like the really rich, cheesy, creamy stuff on it. And I feel like the best sushi is usually just the simple stuff anyway. Thing is here, if you leave any pieces, you have to pay, I think it's like 10 ADs, which is £2 per piece. So Mark can best eat all of these, he will. Then we have the soy sauce, and we get some of the wasabi like this, and you dip it in the soy sauce and give it a bit of a mix. Don't like wasabi, do you, Mark? Oh.
The first time I had wasabi, I put it in my mouth and I was like, just give me a big bite of that. And then I just died. I was like, what is this? But I didn't know what it was.
Coming out your nose. So there's this, oh god, I just can't control this. And then we have the ginger here, which we love. Mark loves the ginger, so we'll probably ask for like 4 servings of that as we go. Right, so the boat has arrived. We've got a massive boat, which is amazing. So many rolls. I can't even remember what we got though. So I think we got the ebi tempura, we got the Alaska. I don't even know. We have to have a look, Mark, and we have to compare because I'm not sure. What's the first one? Right, so we're literally cleaning up over here. I think I'm like 32 rolls deep. And Mark's probably what, like 60 rolls? 60 pieces? 50? Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. And probably 5 portions of ginger as well. This little dessert thing as well. It's sort of like a creme brulee, which we're going to try. But it's like super cute. I'll have to do a little taste test in a bit. Right, so I'm going to try this little creme brulee thing. Oh, it is like an ice cream. So it looks like that. See? That's pretty good. Very sweet.
Fucking banger.
Beautiful. Well, the traffic's not beautiful, but the rest is lovely.
Traffic hasn't been bad, to be fair.
Bex is like, you wait until the schools go back.
Yeah.
She was like, you wait. Hair in the way. Good morning, guys. Hope you are all doing well. Hope you enjoyed me taking you through yesterday and the sushi. I definitely enjoyed the sushi. Actually, that really wasn't too bad. It was like £20 for unlimited sushi, so it's hard to get like bad food out here. So wherever you go, even though it can be like fairly affordable for Dubai, it isn't really going to disappoint all that much. So that's always a big tick in my book because I'm such a food snob. It's so bad. Mark always tells me that. He gets so annoyed. However, I just like good food. I'm just a foodie. I like good food. But in any case, just to update you today, my body weight is up by 0.6 of a kilo, which, to be honest, I fully expected it to be up a little bit. I will always get the biggest jumps in body weight after an off-plan meal like sushi. Let's put it that way. I don't think that anything sees typically more of a jump than if I have sushi. The reason why that is because it is so high in sodium. So if you think about how much soy sauce you go through, it's a lot. So I always wake up feeling a little bit like puffy. Obviously this morning I've literally just cracked on, done my rest day cardio. I've already boxed off my steps. It's quite hot, so I've been sweating a good bit. So I already feel like that has dropped off a little bit and I have a bit more of a jawline back. But this morning I was like, but in any case, that is totally to be expected. I get that every single time I do have sushi as an off-plan meal, and I do love my sushi because it actually tends to digest quite well. It's quite clean, you get a good amount of protein in it. However, boy, those body weight spikes afterwards are, they don't mess about. But in any case, we just get consistent today. So already I'm like 2 meals in, and I'm sure that over the next couple of days, things will literally just drop right back down again. So I've gone from like 66.7, which is sort of a low for this like sort of recomp phase that I'm doing now, mini recomp phase. I'm only like 7 days in. So that was off the back of a low. I've had the sushi. I've then jumped up to 67.3. So initially, a lot of people would be like, oh my God, I feel I'm going to freak out or lose my head or whatever, or I've ruined the whole thing, but that's not the case. Remember that, I still managed that meal sensibly. I actually had one bite of that very small dessert. Other than that, I usually just have a main. I don't have dessert. I didn't have anything when I got home. I just made sure that I've drunk plenty of water last night and this morning, and before long, I'm literally just going to drop that water off and we'll be back to a baseline again, and then pushing back forward to new territory, if you want to put it that way. So I'm sure over these next few days that I'll be again starting to see these new lows come about. However, I will keep you updated with that process. Obviously, I'll keep you updated with this whole little recomp phase that I'm doing. It's still very, very early days. Not really that much of a change yet, of course, because these things take time. Good things take time. And I will obviously continue to document that journey. So if you like the video, you know the drill. Please like, share, subscribe, comment if there's anything else you want to see from me. And I'll see you in the next one.